What if the first sign of dementia isn't forgetfulness, but something far more disturbing? And it happens while you sleep. Before memory fades or confusion begins, the brain often starts to break down in the middle of the night, in subtle, eerie ways no one expects. Sleep becomes unpredictable. Strange things happen, and most people dismiss it as stress, aging, or nothing at all. But these are not just harmless quirks. They're early neurological warnings, and they can begin 5 to 10 years before any memory loss appears. In this video, you'll discover how to recognize the earliest sleep signs that dementia is taking over, while there's still time to act. Number 1. Sudden shift to sleep all day, up all night. It may seem harmless at first, just sleeping in more or staying up late. But when someone flips into a reverse schedule, sleeping most of the day and becoming active at night, it's far from normal aging. This shift isn't just boredom or bad habits. It's a sign that the brain's internal clock in the hypothalamus is starting to fail. As neurons that regulate light-dark cycles deteriorate, the body loses track of when to rest versus when to stay alert. This disruption in circadian rhythm is one of the earliest breakdowns seen on the path to dementia, often showing up years before memory issues are recognized. Real case, Marjorie, age 72, began staying up until 4 a.m. and sleeping until noon. Her family thought it was just retirement boredom. But after 2 years of this reversed pattern and growing confusion, she was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. Number 2. Talking to people who aren't there. The person starts mumbling or even having full conversations with someone who isn't present, often a deceased loved one. It happens during the fragile moments between sleep and wakefulness, when the brain struggles to separate dream from reality. These episodes may last only seconds but feel profoundly real. This phenomenon is tied to declining function in the brain's reality filtering systems, especially the temporal lobes and limbic areas that handle emotional memory. Often mistaken for grief or imagination, it's actually a strong neurological signal that cognitive clarity is starting to fade. Real case, Charles, 73, began speaking to his late brother every morning as he woke up. He insisted it felt real, even describing full conversations. His family dismissed it as sentimentality, but within 2 years, Charles showed major signs of cognitive decline and was diagnosed with dementia. Number 3. Frequent waking up confused or terrified. They sit up in bed, wide-eyed and panicked. Their breathing is heavy, eyes darting, completely disoriented. They might ask what time it is, what day, or even who you are. This isn't ordinary grogginess. It's the brain struggling to reconnect with reality after sleep. Often dismissed as poor rest or a bad dream, it's actually a disruption in how the brain transitions between sleep and wake states. A fragile moment when cognitive control can slip. When these episodes become frequent, they may be the first signal that deeper cognitive functions are starting to break down. Real case, Ron, 68, began waking up several nights a week convinced he was late for work, even though he'd been retired for over a decade. He'd rush to get dressed, asking why no one had woken him. At first, his family brushed it off as stress or aging confusion, but the episodes grew more frequent. 3 years later, his neurologist confirmed the diagnosis: vascular dementia. Number 4. Yelling or screaming during sleep. It's not just mumbling. Some people begin shouting names, arguing with unseen people, or even screaming like they're in danger. These nighttime outbursts can be violent or deeply emotional, often catching loved ones off guard. What's happening is that the brain is failing to paralyze the body during REM sleep, the stage when vivid dreams occur. Instead of staying still, the sleeper vocalizes their dreams. This is one of the strongest early indicators of REM sleep behavior disorder, which often appears years before dementia. It's especially linked to forms involving abnormal protein buildup, such as Lewy body and Parkinson's-related dementia. Real case: Dennis, 74, began yelling in his sleep, shouting, "Get back!" or calling his wife's name in a panic. His family assumed it was stress or old war memories, but the episodes kept increasing. 6 years later, Dennis was diagnosed with dementia with Lewy bodies, and doctors confirmed his sleep behaviors had been one of the first signs. Number 5. Acting out dreams with physical movements. Kicking, punching, falling out of bed. These aren't just strange sleep habits. They're dangerous signals that something deep inside the brainstem is breaking down. Specifically, the brain is failing to suppress movement during REM sleep, the phase that normally keeps your body still while you dream. When this mechanism malfunctions, the sleeper begins acting out dreams with real, sometimes violent movements. And it's not just disturbing to witness, it can cause injuries. This condition is often overlooked for years, especially if the movements seem minor. But over time, it becomes impossible to ignore. Real case: Carmen, 69, fell out of bed 3 times in a single month. She described dreaming she was running from a fire, and her body reacted as if it were real. Concerned by her sleep behavior, her family scheduled a sleep study, which revealed abnormal REM activity. Doctors soon began screening her for early signs of Parkinsonian dementia. Number 6. Sleeping with eyes slightly open. You walk into the room and see them sleeping, but their eyes are still a little open. It's not just unsettling. It's a subtle neurological breakdown most people overlook. During healthy sleep, the eyelid muscles fully relax and close. But with early dysfunction in the brainstem or cranial nerves, that closure starts to fail. The result is a blank, half-open stare that continues even in deep sleep. This eerie phenomenon is rarely reported because the sleeper has no idea it's happening, yet it may be one of the earliest outward signs something is wrong. As facial nerve control weakens, it often points to deeper deterioration affecting areas tied to memory and coordination. Real case: Elaine, 77, started sleeping with her eyes partially open. Her daughter noticed it during an overnight visit and described it as like she was watching me, but completely unconscious. 2 years later, Elaine began having trouble recognizing familiar places and was eventually diagnosed with mixed dementia. Number 7. Vivid nightmares that feel real. These aren't ordinary bad dreams. They're violent, emotionally intense, and disturbingly lifelike. Many people wake up sweating, crying, or physically reacting, sometimes even shouting or jumping out of bed, as if the nightmare actually happened. These episodes often feel so real that it becomes hard to separate dream from memory. What's most concerning is that the brain starts to lose control over both dream content and emotional regulation, creating terrifying sequences that linger long after waking. These vivid nightmares can begin years before any obvious memory problems and are often misinterpreted as stress or past trauma. Real case: Greg, 70, began having nightmares about drowning or being trapped in burning buildings. A few times a week, he described them as more real than real life and said he could feel the heat and fear. After other subtle symptoms appeared, he was diagnosed with early-stage Lewy body dementia 3 years later. Number 8. Unusual sleepwalking episodes. Sleepwalking is rare in adults and even rarer in seniors. If someone over 60 starts walking, moving objects, or wandering at night without remembering it, it's a major red flag. This isn't just a harmless quirk. It suggests the brain is struggling to maintain boundaries between sleep and consciousness. This behavior often points to subtle dysfunction in the frontal and parietal lobes, regions responsible for spatial awareness and decision-making. When these areas misfire, the result can be movement without awareness, a clear warning the brain's control centers are unraveling. Most people don't connect this to cognitive decline until it's too late. Real case, Lillian, 76, was found in the kitchen at 2 a.m. making tea with no memory of it by morning. Her daughter thought it was stress, but as episodes continued, it got harder to ignore. A year later, Lillian was diagnosed with early dementia, confirming what her nighttime behavior had been hinting at. Number 9. Seeing people or figures in the room at night. The person wakes up and claims there's someone in the room, a man in the corner, a woman near the bed, or a child watching from the hallway. Often they describe these figures in vivid detail, including clothing, facial expressions, or even specific movements. These hallucinations feel real because the brain is mixing dream content with waking perception, a breakdown in the barrier between the sleep state and conscious awareness. This points to early dysfunction in the occipital and visual processing areas and is one of the strongest early signs of Lewy body dementia. Real case. Agnes, 78, began waking up terrified, insisting a little girl was standing beside her bed almost every night. She described the girl's hair, voice, and dress as if she were real. Her doctor thought it was anxiety or grief, but within months, Agnes developed daytime confusion and memory gaps. Her diagnosis: dementia with hallucinations, confirming that the eerie visions were the brain's first cry for help. These disturbing sleep changes are often the brain's first warning signs of dementia, long before memory fades. If even one of these feels familiar, don't ignore it. The earlier these signs are caught, the more time there is to slow or possibly even reverse the damage.
And there you have it. What are your thoughts? Next, dive into this video for more essential tips to transform your health and help you thrive. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching Healthy End, and we'll see you there.